Hi everyone, I wanted to just share this little saw here. I think this is the ideal dovetail saw. I was a bit apprehensive, I guess, about restoring this. That's why I hadn't got around to it for so long. There's extensive pitting, no maker's mark on the medallion, just Orange and Superior, which is a generic logo. Turns out there is a stamp in the spine here. Test out this autofocus, but it's not legible. It's R dot something co, and it says cast steel. The other side, quite deep pitting on the blade and more on the spine. Handle's actually in really good condition. You have a, oh, must be on the other side. Oh yeah, there's 3 scars. This was bought at auction, and there would have been other saws in the box with it, and a big coarse-toothed rip saw or something has just scarred the handle here, which is a bit of a pity, but never mind. Handle's cleaned up really well, polished the saw screws, and I've sharpened it. It was a bit of a bastard to sharpen because the tooth line was out of joint. That means it was sort of uneven. They're like 2 or 3 like low points, and you've got no choice but to file back all of the teeth. And I had to file them back so far it was almost like cutting new teeth in with the file, and you know, didn't quite do it the right way. If it's cutting new teeth and you don't want to, let me take a step back. When you sharpen from one side and you skip a tooth, and then you turn it around and you do the other side and do all the teeth that you skip, so you alternate basically. That way you won't sort of bend the saw. And yeah, but when you're filing in new teeth, you tend to end up with one tooth bigger than the other if you do one tooth completely, every second one all the way, and then flip over. Of course, when you do the other side, you tend to file back that first tooth as well as the second tooth a bit. So better off just doing half of it to half depth and then doing the other side to half depth. I didn't do that. It's always hard to correct a saw that's really badly out of joint, so yeah, the teeth are a bit imperfect. There's some like sort of those little double mountain peaks you get. I did go back and joint it again, and I sort of corrected it as much as I could, tested it out. I actually cut really fast, and I was pretty happy with it, but it was just just grabbing a little bit about here, right near this scar of corrosion. So I just marked with my finger. I just would saw through, and as it grabs, I would just let it stop. You just mark exactly where it stops. Had a close look. I could see that some of the teeth were a little bit sharper on the angle. That's called the rake. So the rake was too steep. I refiled them back, and I just blunted them off a little bit. Most of the work's done on this part of the saw anyway, so it doesn't hurt to blunt the back of it a bit. And yeah, retested it, and it cut really well. Quite a narrow kerf. I used the usual Eclipse 77. I set it to number 8. Maybe could have done it as number 9, but anyway, yeah, it's got quite a thin blade on it, and I had to just straighten it a little bit by running it through a vise. Yeah, sharpened as a rip saw, and I think this is the perfect dovetail saw. Just rasp, you feel that rasp when it goes through the wood, and you can actually feel it sort of going down as it cuts. Really, really nice to use, and yeah, a nice narrow cut, and 12-inch. I think it's a 12-inch blade, and there's not a ton of depth to the blade or the saw plate, and so I think this is the ideal dovetail saw, because you don't want a really deep blade for dovetails. And I actually think definitely a 10-inch would be the minimum, but I think 10 or 12-inch for dovetails would be ideal, and that extra length just adds a little bit of weight to the saw, which just makes the cut go a little bit faster. Yeah, I think this is the perfect dovetail saw. Just cuts really crisply. So I'm really glad I restored it. Even clocked the screws. That's called clocking the screws when you get the slots aligned. It's probably from about the 1920s, just looking at the handle style and the style of the screws. Could be a bit older, could be closer to 1900. I'd say someone else had restored it at some point decades ago, because there wasn't like a lot of embedded corrosion in this pitting, so I think someone had de-rusted it and then it had fallen back into disrepair. So yeah, blade's nice and straight. I actually put rapeseed oil, you could use canola oil, on the blade first. I don't normally do that, but that's a corrosion protector, so just let that go in all of the pitting. I really wiped it as dry as I could, and then I put machine oil on to lubricate it. You don't want to leave like thick vegetable oil on here because it goes tacky. You always want to put machine oil on your saw blades. You can put vegetable oil on the spine because there's no need for lubrication there. So yeah guys, really nice dovetail saw. Not a lot of value because of the pitting, and I might be able to identify the maker, but yeah, even if I can, I don't think it's going to make a ton of difference. But I'll sell it as I'd love to keep it, but I have enough saws. I just wanted to do a project involving dovetails because it just cuts so beautifully through a couple of test pieces of wood. And that's what you want, guys, in a dovetail. Nice narrow cut, at least 10 inches of length, not too much depth. Nice comfortable grip to this saw too. And yeah, really glad I restored this one.